What's up, fellow Hoops fans? Welcome back to yet another episode of The Last Shot NBA show here on Little Birdie TV. As always, brought to you by our great mates over there at topsport.com.au. Now, we've actually brought back old mate BK this morning because as much as I don't want to talk about the Los Angeles Lakers, excuse me, they keep making headlines, BK, and we just need to talk about them. So I thought, you know, what better person to come on and talk shit about the Los Angeles Lakers than you.
How could we not, my man? They can't stay out the news.
They just make it too easy for us, BK. And look, we're going to get straight into it. Yesterday, Los Angeles Lakers icon Magic Johnson had some pretty choice words for, I guess, the Lakers organization as a whole, excuse me, and LeBron James. Now, despite averaging 30.3 points, 8.2 rebounds, 6.2 assists, they're LeBron's stats, obviously not Magic's. Magic Johnson says LeBron James is partly to blame for the mess that the Los Angeles Lakers find themselves in at the moment. Now, when he said that, he meant that LeBron has to take blame for deciding, as GM, I guess, of the Lakers, that Russell Westbrook was a better fit for the team than DeMar DeRozan. Now, we spoke about this earlier in the season as well. The Lakers were interested in DeMar DeRozan. DeMar DeRozan wanted to go home to Los Angeles. And then, obviously, LeBron and Anthony Davis met with Westbrook and decided they want Westbrook on the team. There was a quote from Magic BK. So this is the quote. He said, "When I think about it, the blame that he's got to take is the fact that DeRozan ended up in Chicago and not with the Lakers. DeRozan wanted to play for the Lakers. When I got the call from his agent, I called the Lakers and said, hey, he wants to come home. And DeRozan could have been a Laker instead of a Bull. We could have made that deal." BK, is this just throwing more, gasoline onto the fire now? I mean, Magic's tweets, they're pretty generic, but he doesn't hold back when it comes to the Lakers on national TV.
We got to get the Nas Ether beat behind these first appearances. And I get it's easy to throw salt now, but I think the Lakers front office probably deserves a little bit more of this responsibility. I know we joke about LeBron being the pseudo GM and his influence on the team, but they've always kind of had that vision of preparing for life after LeBron, hence the short contracts, wanting to have that cap space in 2023 to build around Anthony Davis. That's always kind of been the mindset that's informed the Lakers' decisions, and that's ultimately why they didn't want to give DeRozan a 3-year deal. They wanted to give him a 2-year deal, and if you're DeRozan, you want something a bit more secure, which he was able to get there in Chicago. So I think a lot of this more sort of falls on the Lakers front office, because they could have offered DeRozan a 3-year deal and made some of those other deals, kept Caruso, but then that would have basically, gone in the face of what they were trying to do. So if LeBron had as much sway as we think he does, they probably could have done those deals at his request. But obviously that wasn't really what the front office and the organization was trying to do. So I'm not all the way there with Magic on that one.
Yeah, look, BK, say it louder for the people at the back, because look, LeBron does have some influence, right? And when you're a player in his position, you've obviously earned the right to have that influence. You know what I mean? When it comes, I'm sure they go to him and ask him his opinion on players and players they want to bring in, and as they should, because as the focal point of that team and the best player on that team, they need to do that. But yeah, he doesn't decide. He doesn't make the final decision whether a team actually signs a player or goes for a player or anything like that. And the other thing that Magic said, he said that, if they'd signed DeRozan, they could have kept, obviously crucial role players like Caruso, KCP, and quote, all of those guys who are our best defenders left, he said, and that's why we're a bad defensive team. Now, even if they'd gotten DeRozan, so we know that Westbrook's on $44 million. DeRozan's on about 25, 26, I think, if memory serves correct. They still wouldn't have been able to keep all of those guys, even with DeRozan's contract. So, look, I kind of get, look, Magic's been on TV for a while, right? So he knows that when he goes out on TV and he says something, it's going to generate that interest. He hasn't realized that he can do that via his Twitter platform yet. I just think he thinks it's only via TV. Look, let's just for a second hypothetically imagine that DeRozan did sign with the Lakers, BK, instead of Westbrook. Does that change anything? Are they any better than what they are now? Because if you ask me, I don't think so, because I don't think that Russell Westbrook is the sole problem on this team.
Oh, the problems run much deeper than Russell Westbrook. And even when you look at the other deals that he mentions, if you had to send Kuzma to Sacramento for Buddy Hield, you would have had to have sent something else to make those salaries match as well. So you probably would have lost a KCP or a Caruso in the process of that anyway. So you likely would have been looking at maybe keeping one of those guys and then, getting Buddy Hield and DeMar DeRozan. Do we just not care about the salary cap anymore? Yeah. We're going to hard cap ourselves, pay the luxury tax. So I don't know. I mean, it's easy to say, oh, it's Russell Westbrook's fault. But I think once they met with Russ, realized those other deals, probably weren't on the table. That was really the best they could do in that scenario. And look, I'm not going to blame him. I was excited for it too.
Really? That's news to me, BK. I don't remember. I don't remember you being excited over the Lakers season.
No, I always had my doubts.
I want to ask you as well, because we're talking about sort of sharing the blame among the Lakers as well. And, I look at a guy like Anthony Davis, who, from what I saw from Magic, he didn't really mention Anthony Davis because I think Anthony Davis, look, he's been injured. I get it. He's only played 27, 28 games, right? When he has played, he hasn't been consistent. We know what he's capable of, but he's one of those guys that just doesn't bring it for whatever reason every single night. How much blame do we throw at Anthony Davis for this season?
I mean, it's hard to blame a guy who's been hurt because, like you said, he just hasn't been out on the court. The Lakers only really got, those 20-odd games out of that big three. So for him, he's doing a lot of talking as well, saying if, they were healthy, they could have beaten the Suns last season. And
yeah,
I mean, you have to be out there to help your team. And really, let's not discount it. Anthony Davis is one of the best players in the league. So anytime you're missing a guy of that talent and that caliber, especially with all the other roster flaws that the Lakers had, it's going to be felt. And, that's why we're sort of looking back and saying, geez, they really asked a lot of LeBron this season. And it's easy to blame Russell Westbrook. He's the new guy. But, you have to look all the way down this roster and look at the guys that they lost, and especially guys that play well around LeBron James. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Caruso and LeBron had a crazy net rating, maybe one of the best, statistically speaking, teammates that LeBron's ever had, which is especially important during those second unit minutes. And then when you're trying to do this without your big man in Anthony Davis, I'm not ready to put this all on Russ. He was below his best, but they were asking him to be a different player. And then on top of that, no Anthony Davis. There's just a lot that went wrong for the Lakers this season.
Yeah, I'm with you. Look, obviously, my feelings on Russ, but I'm with you. He's not entirely to blame. And you bring up a good point, because if you're trying to build a team around LeBron, which they clearly still are, obviously you need to have players that fit around LeBron. Look, from the beginning, it was just a mishmash of players of different playing styles. They didn't really have an identity. And then it seemed like everything that could go wrong did go wrong for the Lakers. Guys were dropping. One guy comes back, another guy gets injured. It's just been a mess of a season. Hopefully, for their sake, for our sake, it'll all be over soon. And we can move on from the Los Angeles Lakers, BK. Let's talk a little bit about Ben Simmons. Again, another guy that we've spoken quite a bit about this season. But, we had an injury update with Ben. So he's yet to make his Nets debut with the Brooklyn Nets, obviously with that back issue. Yesterday, Steve Nash said he's essentially ruled out for the remainder of the regular season and the play-in games, BK. We've got a tweet that we're just going to show up on screen now as well. So these are the tweet yesterday. He did more at practice yesterday, but he's still far from playing. Nash ruled him out for the regular season and the play-in. BK, look, I don't think they get... Look, I don't want to discount them, because any team with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, you can never discount. But I don't know how far the Nets are going to go this season. If he misses whatever play-in games they end up playing, even if he comes back for a first-round series against the Miami or whoever it may be, again, you're going to have to try and integrate a guy who's never played with these guys before in a really sort of tough, tense situation, BK. Is this concerning long-term for the Nets?
I'd say less concerning long-term. I mean, obviously, just given Simmons' age, he's only 25 years old. He's going to be around for for a long time. He's under contract. And I think the biggest question is, I mean, does it really matter this season? They're the 10th seed. They've got a 40-38 record. Kyrie Irving missed half the season. Joe Harris has been out for an extended period. Like, it's not like Ben Simmons is the last piece that was going to take them to a championship this season. Like, in a similar way, now that we speak about the Lakers having problems, the Nets have had a ton of problems this season as well. So, I mean, I would love to see him come back in time for the playoffs. But this guy hasn't played basketball in, we're nearly running up a year, 10, 11 months of him not actually playing basketball. I think for them, they're looking at this from a long-term perspective. Kyrie Irving says he wants to stay around in town. If you have Simmons, Durant, and Irving, under contract long-term, that's, I think, probably where they're looking right now. I know they have a window this season to potentially, do something in the playoffs, and they don't want to waste that. But I think if you're the Nets, you're looking at this from a long-term lens.
Oh, absolutely. You have to. And look, this season, I think anything that happens for the Nets this season is going to be sort of like a bonus, because I kind of feel like you mentioned, they're in 10th, right? Everything's sort of stacked against them. The odds are stacked against them. Anything that happens from now on out is like sort of either planning for the future, or if they go make a deep playoff run, it's kind of like a bonus. They are definitely looking at this long term. I actually saw a tweet yesterday and I died laughing. Somebody tweeted, I think it was in reply to the tweet that we showed on screen, and somebody tagged Ben Simmons and said, just 3 more years and then you can get off to California. Which I thought was actually pretty funny. All right, BK, let's move on. We're going to talk a little bit about the NBA Defensive Player of the Year, because we haven't really spoken. We've shown a lot of love to the MVPs, to the rookies, to obviously, we've looked at championship contenders. We're going to talk a little bit about the NBA Defensive Player of the Year. We're going to show the odds up on screen now as we talk. So we've got Marcus Smart, who is the favorite at $1.80. Bam Adebayo, $3.65. Rudy Gobert, $4.80. Old mate Giannis, who's won the award. Was it last year, BK, that he won it?
Year before, I think.
Year before, that's right. So he's $9.75. Jaren Jackson Jr., 14. Robert Williams, 22. Draymond Green, 91. And our new Aussie king, Matisse Thybulle, there at 176. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about those favorites up at the top, BK. Marcus Smart is favorite, right? Now, for me personally, I like Bam Adebayo for this award because, we've spoken about, my sort of criteria for MVP. It's a little bit different for Defensive Player of the Year. When I look at a Defensive Player of the Year, I like to see versatility in what he can defend, which is, I guess, one of the knocks that Rudy Gobert has had, when he's won the award. Now, you look at a guy like Adebayo, if he's in the lane as a player going to the basket, he's the last line of defense. He's ready to block that thing. If there's a switch and he ends up guarding a guy on the perimeter, he's more than capable of doing that. Like I said, it's all about versatility for me. Now, I looked at Miami's stats. They switched the second most screens in the league, BK, behind, funnily enough, actually Boston. So they do 29 switches per 100 possessions. When Adebayo is on the floor, that number skyrockets to 40.4 switches per 100 possessions. I look at him and I'm just like, he can do it on both ends of the floor, but we're obviously talking about the defensive side of things. I like him to win this award.
I'm not mad at that. I mean, he's even come out and said, he thinks he's the Defensive Player of the Year. The Heat have the 4th best defensive rating in the league this season. And that's kind of the argument that we saw Marcus Smart and Rudy Gobert having was, is this a big man's award or do we reward that versatility? And this is what Marcus Smart said. Nothing against Rudy, but Rudy can't guard all 5 spots. I can guard all 5 spots, and I have been doing it, and I've been doing it very well. So shout out to Marcus Smart, because I do agree with him in that regard. But then if that's our argument, then that probably favors Bam Adebayo more than anybody.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm with you. I think that's one of the key categories for me when I look at a Defensive Player of the Year. Like I said, when I look at MVP, I look at it, obviously that what value you add to a team. And if they take you off that team, like how good could they be? With Defensive Player of the Year, don't get me wrong, I still think Rudy Gobert is a great defensive player, but I look at versatility, and especially in the modern NBA game, you need to be able to defend pretty much all 5 positions, for me anyway.
And not only that, the Jazz haven't been a great defensive team this season. I think that definitely doesn't work in his favor. The years that he won, the Jazz were, top 3, top 4 in defense. They're 12th this season. Marcus Smart's argument, holds a lot of water just because the Celtics have been the number 1 defense all season. And I think, he's his impact, it may not necessarily be as visually obvious as a big man anchoring, the paint and doing those type of things at the rim, but in this switchable kind of positionless NBA, the perimeter players do have a very important job.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. It's tough. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes down to Adebayo and Marcus Smart. But I'm excited to see, maybe we get a guard winning this award for the first time since Gary Payton in '96.
Wow, 96 was the last time that a guard won it. That is
only point guard to ever win it. This is a big man's award.
For real. Hear me out, BK. Hear me out on this one here, all right? A sleeper for this award, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Now, I know what you're going to say. I'm biased. Yes, I admit it. I am biased. I think he's actually had a pretty good defensive season. Look, maybe he hasn't been as good as Adebayo and Smart. Okay, I concede that point, but I think he's had a very good defensive season. He's obviously won the award before. He could be a sleeper for this.
Hey, I'm not mad at that at all. I mean, the Bucks are somewhat of a middle-of-the-road defensive team, but what Giannis had to do this season, obviously with Brook Lopez going down, Giannis just went, okay, I'm the center now. Played 41% of his minutes at center. So we already know what he can do.
Look at me. I'm the center now.
Yeah. We see him guarding Kevin Durant, in these big matchups, and then he's banging in the paint. Like, you talk about versatility, that's versatility.
Facts. Like he could be a sleeper for that award, and like I said, he could definitely still win that MVP. So he might pull off
the scoring title.
That's right, because LeBron might not even play enough games to qualify for that, right, BK?
He's still too shy of that 58 game threshold. So I think it's going to come down to Giannis and Embiid for that scoring title. But I'll tell you what, the last 2 weeks of this season, I've finally come around to what you've been saying all season about Giannis and the Bucks. This guy has really shoehorned his way into a lot of conversations.
Hear me out again, BK. Bucks for champions, Giannis MVP, scoring title, defensive player of the year, finals MVP. Prove me wrong.
Yeah, that trophy cabinet's about to look crazy if he does that this season.
Listen, if he pulls all that off, I don't know. I might have to go streaking through the city. I don't know. We'll figure out something for me to do if he pulls all that off. All right, BK, let's take a look at some games that are on NBA slate, and then we're going to get out of here. 12 games on the NBA slate today, so a busy schedule. 2 have already begun. We're going to take a look at probably the 4 with the most playoff implications. We're going to start off with the Rockets and the Nets. We've spoken about the Nets today. The Nets definitely need a win if they want to host the game in that play-in tournament, because they're the current 10th seed, and they're obviously heavy favorites here today. $1 Houston Rockets, $12. Look at that line, -17. The total's at 243.5, live on NBA League Pass. I mean, on paper, this game is a gimme for the Nets, right? It could be just what they need. The Rockets have lost 4 in a row. The Nets have lost 2 on the trot, but, I don't think that's going to matter today. I think they're going to win very, very comfortably. No Dragic or Seth Curry. Doesn't matter. They're winning this game easily.
I think they're good.
Yeah, they're good. All right, let's move on to the next game. We've got the Milwaukee Bucks and the Chicago Bulls. The Bucks, $1.37 favorites. The Bulls, $3.20. The line's at 6.5. Totals at 231 flat. Live on ESPN. Again, more playoff implications here. The Bucks are tied with Philly in 3rd, 2.5 games behind Miami. The Bulls are tied with the Raptors in 5th spot. Milwaukee's riding a 2-game losing streak. I checked the injury report about 2 minutes before we came on air, and Giannis was still listed as probable for this game. So I'm not sure if he's playing or not. If he doesn't play, it could make it a little bit interesting, BK.
Oh, yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm kind of leaning towards him playing. I mean, we saw him sat out against the Clippers, in that Friday game. He's dealing with that knee soreness, and he came back and played against the Mavs. They still have a shot at the number 1 seed. I know it's getting tight with only a couple of games remaining, but yeah, if there's no Giannis, I'll go with the Bulls. If Giannis plays, I think the Bucks will go for it.
I agree. If Giannis plays, I'm definitely going with the Bucks, but I'm kind of leaning towards the Bucks even without him. I don't know why. I've just got a feeling that the Bucks I think Middleton and Drew Holiday, and I think they're going to have a big game without Giannis there. So I'm going to go Bucks regardless, actually. So that's my pick for that game. Let's move on to the next one here. The Memphis Grizzlies and the Utah Jazz. Jazz, despite the Memphis Grizzlies' 7-game winning streak, the Jazz are favorites in this game, $1.39. Memphis Grizzlies 305. Lines at -6. Totals at 226 even. Live on NBA League Pass. Grizzlies 9-1 in their last 10. They've secured the second seed, so I guess they don't have as much to play for as the Jazz in that sense. Jazz are 6th, half a game behind Denver in 5th. If things remain the same, they'll end up playing the Golden State Warriors in that first round. If they move up to 5th, they play Dallas. So I'm not sure who they would prefer, to be perfectly honest. Ja Morant still out. Obviously, no Dylan Brooks for the Grizzlies as well. BK, who do you like in this one?
I'm not buying it from the Jazz. Even without Ja Morant, the Grizzlies have shown they can still win games. It'll be tougher without the scoring from Dylan Brooks. And I just like this Grizzlies team. They're rolling right now, and it's the exact opposite for the Utah Jazz at the moment.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. Look, I'm not a fan of the Jazz. We know that. I've not been shy in speaking about that. But look, I'm going to go the Grizzlies as well, even without those guys. Like you said, that's probably, yeah, I'm going to go Grizzlies, BK. I'm going to go Grizzlies. It'll be a close one, though. I don't think the Jazz are going to go down without a fight. All right, last game we're going to take a look at here, and then we're going to get out of here. We've got the Los Angeles Lakers and the Phoenix Suns. Will this be the final nail in the Lakers' coffin today? The Suns $1.10 favorites. Los Angeles Lakers $7.25. The line is at -12.5, total 234.5, live on ESPN, BK. Again, this was as of late last night, AD and LBJ were both questionable for this game. So I didn't see anything to contradict that this morning. Lakers have lost 6 in a row. It will be 7 today. There's no chance. Even if LeBron and AD are playing, I just don't think the Lakers have it in them right now. The Suns are the Phoenix Suns. For me, they're the best overall team in the league right now. And for what it's worth, the Suns are 31-8 at home, but they could be playing this game out in the car park in Phoenix somewhere. It doesn't matter. They could be on neutral territory. The Suns are winning this one easily for me.
Yeah, even with LeBron and AD, I think the Suns have won 6 in a row against the Lakers going back to the last season's playoffs. So they're good either way. I think this will be curtains on the Lakers season today.
Finally.
We can exhale.
Yeah, and then we can do like a post-mortem on the Lakers season next week. We can dissect it a little bit, and that's it. We're done. I don't want to talk about the Los Angeles Lakers again until the next NBA season. All right, BK. Thank you very much, my brother, for jumping on. I know you've got a busy day ahead, so we'll let you go. You will be back on Friday morning for what could be the post-mortem of the Lakers, right?
Potentially, / almost definitely.
Yeah, most definitely. All right, my man. We'll see you on Friday. This has been another episode of The Last Shot NBA Show here on Little Birdie TV, brought to you, as always, by our great mates over there at topsport.com.au. We'll catch you guys Friday morning.